I threw on my wool vest and went out. Maybe something had happened. What did I stand to lose by looking? Well, what a cat music went up. And then I took a vow to believe nothing more. But that was no go either. They confused me so that I didn't know the big end from the small. I went to the rabbi to get some advice. He said, "It is written, better to be a fool all your days than for 1 hour to be evil. You're not a fool. They are the fools. For he who causes his neighbor to feel shame loses paradise himself." Nevertheless, the rabbi's daughter took me in. As I left the rabbinical court, she said, "Have you kissed the wall yet?" I said, "No. What for?" She answered, "It's the law. You've got to do it after every visit." Well, there didn't seem to be any harm in it. And she burst out laughing. It was a fine trick. She put one over on me, all right. I wanted to go off to another town, but then everyone got busy matchmaking, and they were after me, so they nearly tore my coattails off. They talked at me and talked until I got water on the ear. She was no chaste maiden, but they told me she was virgin pure. She had a limp, and they said it was deliberate from coyness. She had a bastard, and they told me the child was her little brother. I cried, "You're wasting your time. I'll never marry that whore." And they said indignantly, "What a way to talk. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? We can take you to the rabbi and have you fined for giving her a bad name." I saw then that I wouldn't escape them so easily, and I thought, they're set on making me their butt. But when you're married, the husband's the master, and if that's all right with her, it's agreeable to me too. Besides, you can't pass through life unscathed, nor expect to. I went to her clay house, which was built on the sand, and the whole gang, hollering and chorusing, came after me. They acted like bear baiters. When we came to the well, they stopped all the same. They were afraid to start anything with Elka. Her mouth would open as if it were on a hinge, and she had a fierce tongue. I entered the house. Lines were strung from wall to wall, and clothes were drying. Barefoot she stood by the tub, doing the wash. She was dressed in a worn, hand-me-down gown of plush. She had her hair put up in braids and pinned across her head. Took my breath away almost, the reek of it all. Evidently, she knew who I was. She took a look at me and said, "Oh, look who's here. He's come, the drip. Grab a seat." I told her all. I denied nothing. "Tell me the truth," I said. "Are you really a virgin? And is that mischievous Yechiel actually your little brother? Now don't be deceitful with me, for I'm an orphan." "I'm an orphan myself," she answered. "And whoever tries to twist you up, may the end of his nose take a twist. But don't let them think they can take advantage of me. I want a dowry of 50 guilders, and let them take up a collection besides. Otherwise they can kiss my you-know-what." She was very plain-spoken. I said, "It's the bride and not the groom who gives a dowry." Then she said, "Don't bargain with me. Either a flat yes or a flat no. Go back where you came from." I thought no bread will ever be baked from this dough. But ours is not a poor town. They consented to everything and proceeded with the wedding. It so happened that there was a dysentery epidemic at the time. The ceremony was held at the cemetery gates near the little corpse-washing hut. The fellows got drunk. While the marriage contract was being drawn up, I heard the most pious high rabbi ask, "Is the bride a widow or a divorced woman?" And the sexton's wife answered for her, both a widow and divorced. It was a black moment for me. But what was I to do? Run away from under the marriage canopy? There was singing and dancing. An old granny danced opposite me, hugging a braided white challah. The master of revels made a God of mercy in memory of the bride's parents. The schoolboys threw burrs as on Tisha B'Av fast day. There were a lot of gifts after the sermon. A noodle board, a kneeling trough, a bucket, brooms, ladles, household articles galore. Then I took a look and saw two strapping young men carrying a crib. What do we need this for? I asked. So they said, don't rack your brains about it. It's all right. It'll come in handy. I realized I was going to be rooked. Take it another way, though. What did I stand to lose? I reflected, I'll see what comes of it. A whole town can't go altogether crazy. At night I came where my wife lay, but she wouldn't let me in. Say, look here. Is this what they married us for? I said. And she said, my monthly has come. But yesterday they took you to the ritual bath, and that's afterward. Isn't it supposed to be? Today isn't yesterday, said she, and yesterday is not today. You can beat it if you don't like it. In short, I waited. Not 4 months later, she was in childbed. The townsfolk hid their laughter with their knuckles. But what could I do? She suffered intolerable pains and clawed at the walls. Gimpel, she cried, I'm going, forgive me. The house filled with women. There were boiling pans of water. The screams rose to the welkin. The thing to do was to go to the house of prayer to repeat psalms. And that was what I did. The townsfolk liked that all right. I stood in a corner saying psalms and prayers, and they shook their heads at me. Pray, pray, they told me. Prayer never made any woman pregnant. One of the congregation put a straw to my mouth and said, hay for the cows. There was something to that, too, by God. She gave birth to a boy. Friday, at the synagogue, the sexton stood up before the ark, pounded on the reading table, and announced, the wealthy Reb Gimpel invites the congregation to a feast in honor of the birth of a son. The whole house of prayer rang with laughter. My face was flaming. But there's nothing I could do. After all, I was the one responsible for the circumcision honors and rituals. Half the town came running. You couldn't wedge another soul in. Women brought peppered chickpeas, and there was a keg of beer from the tavern. I ate and drank as much as anyone, and they all congratulated me. Then there was the circumcision, and I named the boy after my father, may he rest in peace. When all were gone, and I was left with my wife alone, she thrust her head through the bed curtain and called me to her. Gimpel, said she, why are you silent? Has your ship gone and sunk? What shall I say? I answered. A fine thing you've done to me. If my mother had known of it, she'd have died a second time. She said, are you crazy or what? How can you make such a fool, I said, of one who should be the Lord and Master? What's the matter with you, she said. What have you taken it into your head to imagine? I saw that I must speak bluntly and openly. Do you think this is the way to use an orphan, I said. You have borne a bastard. She answered, drive this foolishness out of your head. The child is yours. How can he be mine, I argued. He was born 17 weeks after the wedding. She told me then that he was premature.